हम स्टार्टअप के लिए हायर करते हैं, एंटरप्राइज के लिए हायर करते हैं, दोनों में बेसिक डिफरेंस क्या है?
Startup में when you are working, you wear multiple hats, right? So you are not just a software developer. You have to also talk to the market. And generally speaking, market research is done by a product manager or somebody who is involved in the market, right? Software engineer doesn't do that. But startup में वो होता है.
As per your experience, what should be the ideal hiring process for an enterprise?
Rather than hiring process, I will say some data points, 4 to 6 data points. And Google also says like, 6 to 8 is good to have as a data point.
So Indore is known for IT services hub, and when we were hiring for product and tech guys, we were finding this difficulty why the people are not going beyond the lines.
This is how it works, and आपको basically when you feel कि like ये बंदा तो अच्छा कर सकता है, but then why he is getting rejected in a particular enterprise company? The reason is that.
Do you really enjoy solving these problems for the enterprise?
I have been in recruitment for nearly 15 years now. Yes. Without enjoying it, I will not do that now. So I love it. So whenever the challenge comes in, whenever I have to go to the market.
Hello everyone. So today we are having Vijaya with us and we are going to discuss कि hiring के बहुत सारे nitty-gritties होते हैं. उनमें से one of them is a basic difference in the mindset. हम स्टार्टअप के लिए हायर करते हैं, एंटरप्राइज के लिए हायर करते हैं, दोनों में बेसिक डिफरेंस क्या है? समटाइम्स इट हैपेंस वी हायर अ ग्रेट टैलेंट, बट वो टैलेंट ऑनबोर्ड होने के बाद फॉर सम रीजंस कुडंट परफॉर्म. देयर इज सम सॉर्ट ऑफ मिसमैच हैपेंस. व्हाट इज दोस मिसमैच? व्हाट आर द एक्सपेक्टेशन डिफरेंसेस? व्हाट आर द प्रोसेस डिफरेंसेस बिटवीन द बोथ? सो लेट्स डिस्कस एंड एक्सप्लोर इट फर्दर विद विजया. हाय विजया.
Hello Aditi.
So Vijay, we have seen, when we hire for a startup and when we hire for enterprise, सेम टैलेंट अगर होता भी है तो स्टार्टअप में सिलेक्ट हो जाता है, एंटरप्राइज में रिजेक्ट हो जाता है. कभी एंटरप्राइज में सिलेक्ट होता है, स्टार्टअप में रिजेक्ट हो जाता है. सो देयर मस्ट बी सम बेसिक डिफरेंस. टैलेंट अच्छा है बट दोनों के अपने अपने क्राइटेरियाज माइट बी, प्रोसेसेस माइट बी, एलिजिबिलिटीज, कुछ डिफरेंस होता होगा. व्हाट आर दोस डिफरेंसेस?
ठीक है. So see, there are two factors that affects this, right? So one, the persona that fits into the particular thing. Like when you look into the technical aspect of it, majorly it will be the same. Like for example, आप Node.js देख लो तो Node.js का बंदा ही है, Mern देख लो Mern का बंदा ही है, right? But when it comes to the problem statement for which this position is being hired for, तो उस problem statement में persona होता है. Okay. And वो persona का match होना चाहिए बंदा, right? Okay. So like for example, if suppose it's a startup, right? So typically आप consider कर लो startup which is going to create a product which is not even the market now. तो उसको MVP create करना है. तो उसका problem statement define नहीं है. So they are very, the problem statement basically उसका पास एक idea है कि लेकिन मुझे ये वाला target audience के लिए ये solution लेकर आना है. Now I don't know how to do that, right? Okay. So now वहाँ एक बंदा who has not seen this picture, who has been working under a team lead or who has been working under a project lead, who has been breaking down the problem and giving them कि लेकिन आप यही करो, मुझे यही चाहिए, right? He will not fit that. He might be really good in terms of Node.js, he might be really good in terms of technology aspect of it, but then वो problem statement solve नहीं हो पाएगा, right? Because वहाँ problem statement का boundary नहीं है, framework ही नहीं है. You need to create a boundary, you need to create a product, and then slowly the boundary would start expanding. And you need to have that mentality to basically create solutions as and when the complexity increases. But the other side of it, the person को complexity ही नहीं है because the complexity break होकर आपको आ रहा है, and you are working on it, right? Okay. So now that's the persona difference. Now ये बंदा he can go and work in the other side where products are like problem statement is defined and given across to him. But probably 3 months down the line, he will not enjoy that work. He might come out of it saying, मुझे पसंद नहीं आया ये काम, right? So again, it's a long term.
So is it right to say कि whenever someone is hiring for a product or a startup, a person needs to wear multiple hats, not just a talent in terms of tech skills or in terms of one particular skill. They Correct. Need to go beyond that skill as well. Correct. To think holistically, right? Correct.
So startup का मजा वही आता ना. Startup में when you are working, you wear multiple hats, right? So you are not just a software developer. You have to also talk to the market. Probably say, for example, if you are probably from my previous experience, we were working in a company where we are creating app for dukan, like basically your normal tea stop guys who has to keep bookkeeping, right? So bookkeeping app we are creating it across. Now a software developer has to go and talk to a normal tea stop guy कि like आप use किया तो क्या issue आया आपको, right? That is market research. And generally speaking, market research is done by a product manager or somebody who is involved in the market, right? Software engineer doesn't do that. But startup में वो होता है. You have to do this, and until unless you put yourself into the customer's shoe, you will not be able to create a better product. So that happens in startup.
So I understood this, like why it is needed in product startup. But is it a disadvantage to get selected in an enterprise if somebody is willing to take more than what they know, what more than what they are skilled for?
It's not a disadvantage, but basically वो persona होता है ना, like for example, so typically speaking, what happens, again from my experience only I'm speaking, right? So there are product guys who will get cleared in terms of startup, they go and work in say big enterprises where everything is streamlined. But most of the cases they don't enjoy it because they have been doing multiple things and their energy or the persona is molded in such a way like no मुझे वो भी करना है ये भी करना है. When it becomes very structured ना, sometimes वो vibe नहीं आ रहा, मजा नहीं आ रहा types, right? वो आता है. When there have been people who have been very successful also, right? I will not say like no, this is a general trend that happens. I have seen multiple people who join startup from a service-based companies and they enjoy doing it because वो internal fire होता है sometimes, right? So you all your persona का problem सिर्फ नहीं है and you also have a persona that has to match in together.
I guess tenure का भी effect होता होगा वहाँ पर.
Correct.
If somebody is not enjoying what they are working on, they probably leave early.
And startup में one of the thing that majorly happens is there is a lot of unlearning that happens in startup. Right, so आपका persona भी होना चाहिए like no, you have to unlearn and learn things quickly because startup usually the mantra in startup is like no, you fail but fail faster, right? So आप कुछ कर रहे हो, product का MVP नहीं मिल रहा है, probably there are multiple bottlenecks, drop it, go to the something else that would recoup together, right?
I can relate to it. I mean, in early days of super sourcing, when we were building the product of super sourcing, so Indore is known for an IT hub, IT services hub. And when we were hiring for product and tech guys, we were finding this difficulty why the people are not going beyond the lines.
Correct.
They stick to हाँ हमको ये features develop करने हैं और वो develop कर दिए.
So they are used to that, like they are used to work in that mode. कि like no, ये suddenly extra efforts आते तो like मुझे क्यों करना है because you used to spoon feed it.
And startups के लिए it's a problem कि तू ज़्यादा दिमाग क्यों लगा रहा है, जितना बोला गया उतना करो.
But there are people who like that also. There are people who get that fire internally कि like no, मुझे multiple hats मिल रहा है. My learning curve is very steep.
I remember that I used to say कि सिर्फ startup different नहीं होता, वहाँ काम करने वाले लोग भी different.
आपका tech skills would be the same. The persona for the particular problem statement match होना चाहिए with your persona. If that matches, then that's a good bit.
So when I understood the enterprise perspective कि वहाँ पर एक बंदे को एक clarity से काम दिया जाता है and someone has to deliver that only and this sort of talent they need. So even when they are identifying that talent, some extra skills somebody is having, but वो बंदा reject हो जाता है and somebody knowing enough would get selected. So don't you think कि एक talent pool में से बहुत कम talent रह जाता है जो सिर्फ उतना ही, because आज के time में everyone is trying multiple things, everyone wants to learn more. तो talent को भी challenge आता होगा.
No, see, वो enterprise का fault नहीं है, right? So like enterprise is well structured. That say for example if you are doing some other work's job, then basically it becomes a chaos because it's structured, all roles are well defined, right? And ये startup का गलती भी नहीं है. Startup में it's not defined, so you need people to do multiple things so that you move faster of it. तो ये this is how it works and आपको basically when you feel कि like ये बंदा तो अच्छा कर सकता है, but then why he is getting rejected in a particular enterprise company, the reason is that because वहाँ पर the kind of skill set that you are looking into can be different. Like for example in most of the project companies or most of the services companies, there is a concept of project and bench, right? Now, वहाँ पर what they look into is they look into a breadth of knowledge. Like for example, I would get a project today at AWS and say tomorrow I will get a project in Azure. So I might need a person who has a breadth of knowledge who can do multiple things because मेरा bench strength is more capable because I have that person who has two things. Probably he might have not a depth of it, but he has a breadth of it.
Good
but that's good for a product company or that's good for a services company because उसका bench capability ज़्यादा है. Like tomorrow any new project comes in, I don't have to waste money or time on the particular person. I just have to put him and he will work in because उसके पास Azure का experience तो है. But when it comes to product, unless drastically कुछ happens, they will not move from AWS to Azure. They will stick with AWS. तो वहाँ पर बंदा को depth knowledge होता है because he has been working on the technology in and out kind of thing. Right? They will not change from a Node.js to Java immediately. वो technology change करने के लिए there will be a big decision that will happen, there will be big discussion that will happen. Then पूरा का पूरा port होकर वो change होता है product पर. So depth knowledge आता था, whereas breadth would be coming. So probably that can be also a reason why these people might not fit in well into other side of it.
Which is easier, Hiring for startup or hiring for enterprise?
Hiring is always difficult. No, that's my ball game. So I'll say
It's people
that. But ये difficult का ये नहीं है. It's basically understanding the process. Like typically saying when it comes to enterprises side of it, they have a pretty streamlined process. I have seen companies doing 7 rounds, 8 rounds of interviews for 3-year guy, right?
What is the highest rounds of interviews?
I have seen 10 going
10?
on. Yes, 10 interviews I have seen for a candidate. And see, typically क्या होता है ना कि like some or other, once we have not streamlined the interview process, you think like okay fine, I will do an interview of 4 rounds. Then 4 rounds के बाद you sit together and figure out कि like बंदा कैसा है. I will do a debrief, right? Every hiring पर all the interviewers and the hiring manager sit together and they will discuss on the debrief. Now debrief में पता चलेगा कि like there is a core competency that we have not developed at all. बट 4 गुण हो गया उसका बंदा का ना, उसको फिर से बुलाओगे कि लाइक ओके फाइन, इसमें भी बात करेंगे फिर से. लो दिस काइंड ऑफ प्लेसेस वेयर यू डोंट हैव अ स्ट्रीमलाइंड प्रोसेस क्रिएट्स कायोस. एंड वो कायोटिक फीलिंग पर बंदा का इंटरेस्ट लेवल भी थोड़ा सा कम हो जाता है. लाइक ही गेट्स दैट.
Then they must be missing out some great talent in the process, right?
Correct. So your candidate experience should be also good, right? So if like there is a saying like if you treat a candidate badly, irrespective of how many money you throw across to him, he's not going to join you.
I think in the today's time, customer is king for sure, but candidate is also king, right?
So yeah, अच्छा candidate को definitely offer तो आ जाता है, right?
Obviously, जो talented है, they can get
an
offer from
offer.
anywhere.
And आज का ज़माना पर you have multiple, like there was one place where FTE था.
So, as per your experience, what should be the ideal hiring process for an enterprise?
See, it's rather than hiring process, I will say some data points. Like you should have at least 4 to 6 data points to evaluate a candidate. Saying like बंदा अच्छा है, 4 to 6 data points. And Google also says like 6 to 8 is good to have as a data point. And that's what Google follows. But then we are not Google, so 8 data points, so we will not be able to get it out. So 4 to 6 is a good number.
What are those data points?
So it can be anything. Like for example, if suppose you are hiring for say 1 to 2 year guy, right? आपका first data point can be the pedigree. The person coming out from the resume per college per उसका background of degree वगैरह part. Second pedigree can be the kind of competitive coding that a person has, because at that level per what you majorly need is good problem solving skills, good data success algorithms, and a good decent amount of technology skills that you bring into picture. So competitive coding पर उसका DSA algos पर कैसा है वो on the platforms like say LeetCode, HackerRanks. So that can be your second data point. So you can have some framework, like for example, I have seen companies who look into people who have a 5-star rating in problem solving at HackerRanks, or somebody who has done more than 100 difficult or hard questions in LeetCode. So there are some data points. And then you will have 2 levels of discussions that you would have internally. That becomes a data point, right? So this data points will help you to evaluate a candidate. Rather than saying like, no, ये 7-year बंदा है तो मुझे 7 rounds of interview लेना है. Right? Doesn't make sense.
Right.
You just have to have the right parameters set across so that you know I have evaluated the person for the right problem statement that I have, and I'm getting the right person.
So, what do you think? Like measuring those data points, for example, 6 data points, how many rounds of interview should be there?
Depends upon what you want to do. Like there are a couple of data points that you don't want to do an interview at all. You can get it across. Like LeetCode scores, you don't have to do an interview. You can get it across, right? There are some data points that you need to evaluate. Like for example, LeetCode with data success ka, even though there is a good parameter coming out, you might definitely want to evaluate him across, right? So now, say for example, abhi aap le lo, let's take like you are hiring for a tech lead, right? So now a tech lead as a person, आपको technology का knowledge होना चाहिए. He should be hands-on on any language that you're looking into. You should be good in some DS and algos. And definitely he should be having a good design.
And what about team leading skills?
So tech lead usually is an IC role. When it comes to team lead, then there is a different people management skills comes into picture. But yeah, so all this becomes your rubrics. Like we call them like parameters, rubrics बोलते हैं. So like for example, when you say parameter as Node.js is a parameter, now Node.js के नीचे बहुत सारा rubrics होता है. So now say for example, I want to Node.js का coding है and the Node.js का API development है. So these two becomes your rubrics. So in a particular round, I would fix my parameter is going to be Node.js. And उसके नीचे ये 3 rubrics है. तो evaluate a candidate for the particular rubrics. Second round, I would fix आज मेरा data success algorithms का focus है on the level 2. Now उसके नीचे 3 rubrics है. How optimized his code is, how corner cases that he has solved, ऐसा rubrics में लिख लूँगा. So now once I do level 1, level 2, level 3, I know at the end of the interview that I have covered all my parameters.
All the data points, right?
Now I am sure कि no, this बंदा अच्छा है, I have covered all my parameters which I needed for my problem statement of hiring. I'm going to hire the person.
So lead code hacker rank का जो scoring system है, is it credible enough to trust?
It is. Basically the thing is like I will not say कि like no आप 100% उसके ऊपर जाओ. It's a data point for you.
You can
make
consider
sure कि
that
like,
and then evaluate
the
further.
person into it. Like for example, lead code पर generally speaking, it's a competitive coding, right? When it comes to competitive coding, what happens is like people कितना जल्दी आप solution दे रहे हो and कितना optimized the solution is, आपका score increase होता है. So now for that, people use generally C++ or Python, which is easy to code. But then you are hiring for a Node.js guy, so you would not blindly go with that. Because वहाँ पर people use other language because it's easy to code, quickly code कर सकता है, quickly solution दे सकता है, and score can increase. So you can utilize that for problem solving skills and bring them and evaluate him for Node.js along with your DSA algos.
So you can consider as a base, but not for the evaluation. You
बहुत
should
सारे
have your
companies
own.
से कहते हैं मुझे IIT से बंदे चाहिए, NIT से बंदे चाहिए, right? Rather than that, go with these people, right?
Right,
Who
right.
have
That is even better.
correct.
Right. So now when you mentioned कि ये 2-3 level का interviews में we could have covered all the points. Now can you brief me about what are the rounds, those 8 rounds companies evaluate in the 8 rounds of interview?
उसमें 3 rounds was this. Like no, हमने एक पैरामीटर छोड़ मिस कर लिया तो लेट्स मी इवैल्यूएट इट अक्रॉस.
Okay.
2 फाउंडर था तो एक फाउंडर के साथ एक राउंड, सेकंड फाउंडर से फिर से बाद नेक्स्ट डे अनदर राउंड.
Okay.
And this happened in Bangalore. And consider the kind of traffic and consider the kind of
And that is face to face.
Face-to-face discussions.
Okay.
They are not ready to do a virtual discussion. And you can imagine the number of frustration that comes into the candidate
Obviously,
adding
I
to
mean,
that Bangalore traffic and stuff.
8 rounds, then someone has to travel for every
Correct.
round. So definitely company must be missing out some great talent.
They missed out this
because
talent.
of this.
So they offered a candidate, but the candidate didn't join. So
He's
they missed out
already
the
frustrated.
candidate. Yeah. तो वही होता है. So there are places where candidate starts the process. And even though they are frustrated, they will feel कि okay मैं start कर लिया तो मैं end भी कर लूँगा. ठीक है मैं फिर से बुला रहा हूँ. Okay fine I'll go. But then the frustration builds up in such a way कि like tomorrow another offer आ रहा है उसके पास.
So shall I conclude like once you define the proper JD and the role, you can also define those 6 to 8 data points,
Correct.
right? Which are the evaluation markers for you, and then accordingly you can design the rounds of interview. It should not be like for every role there has to be 5 rounds. For some there could be 3. For some there could be 4.
However, we will optimize this interview process that adds in value to the.
Because it is again time
candidate
consuming for
experience.
both the parties,
Yes.
right? Both sides.
Again, in taking interviews also money, right? That
Obviously,
also
it
bandwidth
consumes
cost
time.
that
Right.
company spends. So the basic thing is like for me, hiring process is not an hiring manager decision. Like hiring manager would say, like मुझे ये बंदा चाहिए, right? But he is not going to take a decision. There is a team effort that goes up around
obviously.
it, including the recruiter, the coordinator, this interview panel, and then the hiring manager, and probably the CXO who is going to approve that particular position, right? So all these people has to get aligned into one single page so that you are able to make a hire properly.
Vijay, we have heard Chinese whispers. When information pass on from one step to next, there is always some sort of information goes missing. So for example, suppose I am having some requirement for talent. मैंने मेरे recruiter को बोला, project manager को, project manager conveyed the same to recruiter. Now recruiter has to prepare the JD. I'm definitely sure कि as it is तो नहीं transfer होगा. Same goes to enterprises where the hierarchy is even longer. So do you witness this कि ये problem आता है, ये problem कितना escalate हो जाता है when it comes to hiring?
So this is very common. So one of the major reason why I feel this would happen is hiring manager don't take it very seriously. Generally what you said, right? Hiring manager उसे के लिए मुझे ऐसा बंदा चाहिए, recruiter को बता देंगे. Recruiter को क्या they have to create the JD. Now ChatGPT है तो 2 लाइन तो आ गया JD. ना उसका भी मतलब नहीं है कि लिखना क्या हो गया, JD तो आ गया, उसमें टेक्निकल सभी है. This is passed on to the hiring manager and okay fine approve कर देंगे. Then goes to the market. People start applying for it or people get sourced for it. Now first interview डाल देंगे. Now the interviewer would not have a clue क्यों इंटरव्यू आया मुझे, right? You not even understand कि क्या है, तो ये recruiter को पूछ के recruiter बताएंगे ऐसा ऐसा बंदा है. Now recruiter would again speak JD or most of the cases recruiter would send the JD to the interviewer. ऐसा JD के लिए हम hire कर रहे हैं. So the interviewer will go talk, do multiple things, ऐसा some 10 to 15 candidates would go. Then in case उसमें closure नहीं हो रहा, then hiring will come back क्यों नहीं हो रहा, then feedback आएगा, then after seeing the feedback hiring will say ये तो नहीं है मेरा, मुझे तो ये नहीं चाहिए, why are you hiring this, why are you evaluating this, right? So generally this is very common. That's why even at super sourcing, when we get any problem statement from a client, problem statement is generally JD again. So they just send a JD and we know how the JD has been created.
Obviously.
So we obviously go to the person who is hiring for it, try to talk to them,
Okay.
and then structure that across with the problem statement and the parameters and rubrics. That's why we are able to understand exactly what they are looking for. And I think that is the best practice even in the industry to follow that across, right? A hiring manager probably has to spend half an hour in terms of exactly trying to figure out like exactly मुझे क्या चाहिए, कौन चाहिए, which is the person I'm looking into, and translate that across in the document. So at again 5 years down the line when we had the problem statement in multiple companies, we didn't have chat GPT, right? So one of the best practices that we did was there was a role debrief call for any role that we used to do. So उस role debrief call पर before the role debrief call the hiring manager के साथ we will sit and we will tell कि ऐसा ऐसा बंदा है तो we need to understand कि कौन सा parameters हमको evaluate करना पड़ेगा. Now there will be a list of parameters that they will give. We will try to group these parameters. Like for example, if suppose he says कि मुझे Node भी चाहिए, React भी चाहिए, we used to group कि Node and React can be one level of discussion. DSA algos can be one level of discussion. So that each and every discussions can run for a 1 hour duration side of it. तो ग्रुप करके we will try to figure out कितना rounds of interviews हो रहा है हमको. Then we go back to the hiring manager saying this can be the process. Now उस process के लिए who is the right interviewer that you would like to put him in. There will be some people who will be very good in terms of DSL course. So I will use them for L1 round. Somebody would be very good in terms of machine coding. I will use him with the L2 round to figure out the technology side. Then we would have a discussion with all the panel in one single room to understand and tell them ऐसा ऐसा होना चाहिए. This is why we are hiring. This is the problem statement. This is the person that we are looking into. आप L1 पर DSA check करो. Don't check on anything else. आप so basically इसमें क्या होता है कि as a recruiter, now I am going to talk to the candidate and I am going to tell him ऐसा ऐसा role है मेरा company पर and आपका 4 rounds of discussion होगा. First round पर problem solving होगा. Second round पर ये होगा. So if I tell that the structured way, for him also he will feel this company is serious in terms of hiring. He would also have that better candidate experience कि okay fine ये structured है. I know what I am going to go through in my L2 round, L3 round. We also give who is going to be the interviewer for the L2 round. तो ऐसा structure हो गया तो then the candidate experience also increases. For us also it's easy कि to and fro नहीं होगा. Like the case of after all the 4 rounds of discussion हमने check नहीं किया फिर से बुलाओ बंदा को, right? So that doesn't happen. So we structure it across. So this would happen if a hiring manager का थोड़ा सा extra another 15 minutes rather than just telling मुझे ये बंदा चाहिए and then chat GPT runs everything for you. It's better कि you evaluate it across in your way and then you transfer it across with the structured points and have a proper debrief with the client.
So you figured out this loophole and then fix it at your level, right?
हाँ.
Like, but
maybe after multiple failures, like अचानक नहीं होता है. Yeah,
what is your selection ratio in that case?
So I will tell you a couple of things, right? So when we are hiring for an SD2, SD3 in a company, we also evaluate something called a throughput ratio and a pass-through rate ratio. So every rounds पर कैसा आता है, how people are moving in. So we evaluate all these things. तो उसमें we figure it out एक round पर our pass-through rate is very very less. And why it was very less. And then we went across to it and then we figured out ऐसा ऐसा है for example very simple thing, you are a candidate, I am an interviewer and I ask you one hard question. So now you basically solve that question in probably half an hour. ठीक है, usually generally speaking 1 hour होगा solve करने के लिए, but you solve it in half an hour. So you're a better candidate. But then मेरे पास half an hour बचा है as an interviewer. So I give another question to you. Now उसमें आप flunk हो गया, तो I reject you. Whereas the other guy who I give a hard question, उसने रपा मार 1 hour 1.5 hours के बाद he solved it across. Now I am happy, okay solve के लिए fine, I will select you. Ideally who should be selected, right? So ये सब वाला bias बहुत सारा आता है. And these biases and these parameters को we use to understand, evaluate and then we streamline the process. So this happens with multiple iterations, but this would happen as and when you have a proper process so that you are able to get that feedback coming in and वो feedback hiring manager के जाकर then we do a role debrief. So that's how we improve it. Like probably from a 30% we are able to increase to 70%, 80%.
But
with
for
this.
that level of iterations and multiple discussions, you don't think like, you know, seniors need to have discussion with seniors. When it comes to juniors or recruiter level person or team member, do you think they get the proper response from the other side?
They should, like,
They should, but they do get.
So that's where that's where the data matters. Now, if I go and tell my hiring manager कि like no बंदा सभी reject हो रहा है, तो as a hiring manager will say कि क्यों reject हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है. But if I go with the data point and say कि like no इतना लोग आया है, but इतना लोग reject हुआ है, इतना लोग select हुआ है, तो इसमें throughput ratio इतना है, that's why data matters. So that's what now as an interviewer or as a recruiter, that is your job, and that's what we should do, right? You are not just the person who is going to push your resume in. You are the person who are understanding
so
the
here
particular
comes
thing.
the role of recruiter.
Yes.
Right, you know, you need to measure all those, you know, criteria that JD has mentioned and the hiring manager has mentioned. So just explaining what kind of expectations you have while hiring a recruiter in your team.
So first and foremost, मुझे तो so learning capability should be there, because any recruiter like me,
it's not just JD matching as of now,
Yes,
right?
no.
It's far beyond that.
it's basically somebody who has a capability to understand the technology. Like when I say technology, it's not like again purely pulling a technical recruitment side of it, right? You don't have to code, but you need to understand technology क्या होता है, what is front end, what is back end, differentiate it across levels क्या होता
At
है,
all the levels?
at all the levels. Levels क्या होता है?
Junior, I mean,
in the recruiter side,
seniority.
that becomes very basic for you, right? आपको नीचे 5 लोग है, but 5 लोग का problem statement कुछ है, तो you need to understand something, go and solve it. Like again, I tell to all my team members कि like no, in case your team members doesn't see you as a problem solver, then you are not a manager. They will not value you as a manager, right? आपको उनका problem है, तो I have to go and ask somebody, and that is a manager. So that's what I always tell them. So that should come with your experience and with the capability that we need. So मेरा recruiter, all recruiters who sit at super sourcing would be technically strong. They would know front end क्या होता है, back end क्या होता है, किस technology.
It is non-negotiable.
It's
right?
non-negotiable. Even if suppose you are going to tell them कि like no, I am looking at so and so skill set, and if it is hard to get, they will come back to you saying like no, this can be an alternate solution for you. ये technology use कर लो, so that you will be able to get that solution.
That also helps in convincing the other side, right? Like
that helps the
that
client.
You have done your homework right.
No, it also adds value to super sourcing, right? You go and tell this to the client, and the client values you, looks at you as a partner rather than just a hiring consultant.
Right, right.
That matters a lot.
And we definitely need to be in their shoes to understand their problem and then try to solve it, not just hire. You are solving.
We have a lot of research papers where we basically send this market data to client saying like no, आपको इसमें बंदा नहीं मिलेगा, आपको ये करना है, so that you are able to do this. And they come back to us. And they come back to us saying like, okay, yaar, thanks, yaar. I will also use this data for my seniors and give it across and try to get some solutions for you.
So super sourcing is not just your, you know, an IT staffing company जहाँ आपने अपनी requirement दे दी और हमने JD match करके hire कर दिया. We are actually like your technical recruitment partners where we understand your problem. We try to be in your shoes and then we design the solution at our level and deliver all those, you know, requirement to you and helps you in your hiring. So Vijay, I mean, do you really enjoy solving these problems for the enterprise?
I have been in recruitment for nearly 15 years now.
Yes, yes.
So without
One
enjoying,
of the hardest job ever.
Without enjoying, I will not do that now. So I love it. So whenever the challenge comes in, whenever I have to go to the market, get that understanding.
Is it frustrating when you see lot of offers, you know, candidate drop the offer letters, lot of time you have lot of people selected, but then client don't, you know, give them the joining or some reasons they are not onboarding the resources?
Sometimes, like most of the cases, पर हम क्या करते हैं? We try to solve it from our end. We again understand the seriousness of the recruitment and we try to negotiate things across around that, right? But then recruitment is not 100%. Like there is no input output kind of a formula in recruitment, right? ये तो बहुत ही आसान काम है. But yeah, so failures तो होगा. But the thing is like every failure teaches you something. And the market is so changing.
ये बोलने में अच्छा लगता है, but when it actually happens, it is frustrating, no? कि आपने एक position के लिए you have offered, then candidate on the date of joining there is a no show.
Have plan B, backup रख लो उसको. Right, so that's the only thing that we can do. So this would happen in recruitment. You never.
What if there is a no show in interview? It harms the reputation.
We face it each and every. Like today morning also there was a candidate who told like, no, I will not be able to attend the interview. Slot waste हो जाएगा. there was another candidate that we put across in that same slot.
Okay, so you always have backup.
We have a backup.
And backup का भी backup?
Backup का backup उतना नहीं होता है, but backup में we like you say for example if you have a drive or something, right? So like for example you will have some 10 slots for the drive. So we will have 10 plus 5 people at the back. So 5 people को we used to keep saying like no आपका slot आ जाएगा, be ready at any point of time I will call you and tell you any point of time there is a drop I will put the candidate in. So that's how we plan it across.
After all those rigorous work and process, आपने sourcing किया and you understood the problem. फिर now you are figuring out the right pool of candidate, then scheduling interviews, finally getting selected. Now, what if the candidate get rejected at BGB, background verification?
Okay. Yeah. So one of the problem statement with enterprises is this: they have a very strict BGB, or we say rather than BGB, I feel like they have some set of process that they will blindly follow. Like मुझे यही करना है, I will have to blindly follow it across, right? So sometimes क्या होता है, BGB is what I feel like BGB is a place where people fail without knowing that I will fail, right?
And for some silly reasons.
Silly reasons, very like there can be frustrating reasons also, right? So
can you mention one of that frustrating reasons?
So I will tell you, right? So there was one of a client which needed Form 26A of a candidate. Now a Form 26A can be downloaded from a government portal, and you know how government portals works, right? Suddenly काम करता है, suddenly it will say click no, error आता है. So now this has to again this guy had to put in his username, password, and then there is a OTP that goes in across. Now this OTP goes to the number which was his first number at the initial of his career. Now number किसके पास है उसको भी पता नहीं. And without OTP he will not be able to download that Form 26. And without that the company is blindly saying I will not hire you.
Even if it is a great talent.
Great talent, सभी clear हो गया. The client also liked him. They want to hire him. But now the BGV team is like no I will not hire him because Form 26 नहीं है. And candidate also is like OTP नहीं है मेरे पास. OTP कहाँ आ रहा है? So this kind of reasons can be frustrating for you. There are multiple like. So
don't you think it's a loss for the company if they are losing out great talent for those reasons?
It is actually. Like,
how much it is justifiable having this process?
So for them, sometimes what I feel like no, they have to have rather than a so rigid process, they should have something flexible
multiple
enough.
Options.
Correct. So that they are able to figure out like no, so banda technically strong है, which they have evaluated through the technical side of it. बंदा का other documents everything is clear. For आपका pay slips आ गया, उसका PF आ गया, UN number है, UN check भी है, everything is clear. Resume match हो रहा along with that. Now Form 26 नहीं है, and वो download नहीं हो पा रहा, तो they are stopping it across, right? So that rigidness sometimes makes it very loss. But the same candidate, so this client was hiring for end client. The same candidate cleared the end clients down and he joined that company.
Okay.
So same company, right? Now this is basically stopping the candidate for BJV, whom they are hiring for the end client, and the end client उसको directly market पे है बंदा directly बात किया उसे, they offered him and he got placed also. So it basically becomes an opportunity loss as well as a project loss for the client, right? So rigidness sometimes becomes a very big.
So it is like no, being a founder, I prefer talent. But for my recruiter, it is just JD matching again, right? They have to follow the process. If the process is not being followed, they will question you.
So sometimes what I feel like no, that person who is taking the decision, right? So वो person के पास उतना authority नहीं है कि like no, he can go and tell somebody कि like no ऐसा नहीं है, can I do something else? Or probably doesn't want to do that. He just blindly wants to follow something that has been.
That is also true.
So that kind of hinders a lot of things.
So now the other side of it, the talent, right? We understood process and everything. Now for talent, it is very frustrating, right? They are giving multiple rounds of interviews, and after every round they have to wait for the result and then again move forward. And in the last, they are being rejected for the BGB and for some other reasons. So, and then we say कि talent नहीं है. So where is the problem? Talent है, talent company है, वो hire भी करना चाहती है talent को. बट ये प्रोसेस का प्रॉब्लम है, ये माइंडसेट का प्रॉब्लम है, क्या हम इसको चेंज नहीं कर सकते? एंड व्हाट इज द बेस्ट वे टू गेट द बेस्ट टैलेंट ऑन बोर्ड?
सो इफ यू सी दिस ना, दिस इशू मोस्टली डजंट हैपन इन स्टार्टअप्स, बिकॉज स्टार्टअप्स में उतना हायरार्कीज नहीं है, ब्यूरोक्रेसी नहीं है. right? And people, again, as I told you, wear multiple hats, so they have that authority to take something beyond, take a decision on their own, right? वो वाला है. Most of the enterprises में ये issue हो जाता है. There is a hierarchy in place. Now if he has to go something beyond, he has to tell somebody else, and he has to tell somebody else. तो ऐसा एक pattern हो जाता है, right? And people don't want to do that. They will stick with click, मुझे ये करना है, right? They would get to know about this thing. Like for example, this candidate, they now realized कि like no, वो बंदा join कर लिया हमारा client के ऊपर ही, whereas we stuck here in this place, right? So they realize when it's too late.
Obviously.
वो flexibility or something they have to understand when there is a pattern, and they should be able to do some modification around the process so that they will be able to minimize this loss.
So this modification is easy. Suppose if someone from the team suggesting their seniors, like we should do these changes in our process. Do you think it has been entertained and put in effect after some suggestions?
Again, as I told, if suppose he goes and tells हवा में ऐसा ऐसा है, then they will not listen.
With the data points.
With the data points, right? Data matters a lot. And if you have the right data point, and if you are able to have the right judgment to convince people in, then you are the best person there.
So what is your recommendation to the enterprises or their hiring teams, like how their hiring process should be?
So rather than checkpoints, like ये पूरा checkpoint है, ये पूरा checkpoint हमको रखना पड़ेगा, have or types, right? So it's very common. Like आपको you want to create an account in bank, right? Bank पर आपको देते हैं address proof के लिए either this or this or this or this. Like there will be multiple documents that you can submit for that address proof के लिए, right? So now like that employment proof के लिए any of this can happen rather than having all the checkpoint ये सभी चाहिए मुझे, so that I will not, like government भी यही करता है, so why not we can do that, right? So that's one of the things.
Now this is the world's most demanding questions, I would say. I mean candidates को भी और employers को भी. AI के आने से क्या change आया? Because AI
मैं बता ना chat GPT से JD आ रहा है.
That is one thing, but AI का FOMO बहुत है market में.
So one of the things that I have seen is like recently AI interviews are kind of increasing a lot. Generally speaking, earlier people don't trust external interviewers, right? So they outsource an interview and then उसका feedback आएगा, but still they will feel कि नहीं नहीं मुझे फिर से करना पड़ेगा because I don't trust that interview. तो क्यों रखा उसको, right? But now somewhere or other they are going towards that angle. Specifically because थोड़ा सा trust है, because I see this pattern coming out in the picture.
Ironic.
हाँ, but again it's a combination of it, like pure AI का है, pure report है, they are not taking
combination.
A combination like a manual interviewer है, but then it's coming out
that
with
this change is it better or it is worse than before?
I think I'm mixed here, right? But I feel it will get better. That's my feeling because
with more correction or accuracy नहीं है.
Accuracy आएगा अंदर, at the same time biasness नहीं है, like the kind of interviewer I told ना, ये hard question, hard plus easy question and उसको reject
But then AI भी तो trained ही हो रहा है, the data point that you are giving, तो bias तो हो सकता है ना?
Bias नहीं होगा ना, data points that you are giving would be basically 100 data points that you are giving up to AI. वो 100 data points से it will take out what got selected, what got rejected, and that's how it gets trained into the model. Human ऐसा नहीं है ना, human का biases, multiple biases भी है human का, so that's different and this is different.
Okay, so thank you Vijay, it's nice conversation.
Nice.
I mean hiring is one of the most challenging job, and when I see my team, your team as well, कि calls कर रहे हैं, candidates कई बार pick नहीं करते हैं, offers दे रहे हैं, join नहीं करते हैं, interviews पर wait कर रहे हैं, there is a no show. It's very hard.
Offer declines.
But you are, nailing it down, and your team. So kudos to you and your team.
Thank you.
So I hope we all learned how it is. What is the difference between startups, enterprise, ka hiring ka process, as well as the mindset, and as well as the challenges as well. So for some more hiring insights, stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.